can summarize this for you very quickly if you'd like. I put my website up after not being online for months. I make a big comeback. I defend Corey, who I'm on Cosmic Disclosure with, against this monumental, ever-increasing amount of attacks against him online, primarily through 3 or 4 major public figures, all of whom seem to just be feeling as if they can say whatever they want with no repercussions. And I finally decided to speak about this because it was so ridiculous. And as soon as I do, my website gets hacked in 4 different ways, each of which were very intense. Then, the day at the end of the hack, this guy writes a comment and threatens me and says, I'm the guy that's been doing this to you, and if you don't dump Corey Good, I'm going to release a document dump that will ruin both of you. Like, wow, who the hell are you, man?
Right.
But the thing that people didn't know is that I had an insider I thought I could trust call me up on July 3rd, which was a month and 2 days before, and he had threatened me on the phone. And he had said that he owed the Rothschilds a favor. Apparently he'd been involved with them before, and that he wanted to tell me on their behalf that if I did not cut cords with Corey Good, that Corey was going to be, quote-unquote, brought to the slaughterhouse. And they didn't say whether that was metaphorical or literal. And then I was also told that if I cooperated, he's like, well, just tell me if you have something you can sell, like your car. I'm like, well, why is that? And he said, we could pay you a lot more than it's worth. And that's how we get people money. And I'm like, what? And then he tells me that I could become the next Art Bell. That Art, I'm sorry, that's you, right? I could become the next Alex Jones.
Oh, that's
I shouldn't have said that. But anyway,
that's funny. That's funny.
I could become the next Alex Jones. They would help me. That Alex Jones has a weak heart, and they don't know but what he might have a heart attack, and they want to have assets. This is what they said. They want to have assets that they feel they can control. That they'd give me money, they'd build me up so I could be as big as Alex Jones, and I could talk about whatever I want as long as I don't talk about Corey Good.
Why Corey Good? And
exactly. That's why.
Why? Look, I have gotten so much pressure via email and other, to drop Corey Good, and your name comes up too. It's always, a few down the line. They always bring up you too as well. But and I don't care. I'm not going to. It happens with other guests too as well, and not like it has with Corey, of course, but. I have a guest on and somebody will say, you know what, never do that again. I don't, so I ignore it. This Corey stuff started to flare up, and I was ignoring that like I do everything else, just thinking it's going to go away. It's a one-time thing. Yeah. And it hasn't, and it's all from the same source. But the point is, why Corey? Why drop? What do you mean drop? I don't, this is what they don't get, David.
It's really bizarre, Jimmy. Really bizarre.
You and I have had this conversation privately. I will now have it with the audience. I have told David, and I've told, I don't support David Wilcock. I don't support Corey Good. I don't support anybody. What are you saying? I don't have that kind of power either. But support? I don't support. I have guests on my show that I listen to that the audience can get information and knowledge from or not. It's their choice. It's a free country, right? And
you have a responsibility to your listeners to not ignore
or censor
what are the hot topics that everybody's talking about.
Or censor. Censor is probably the better word. So what do you mean? That somebody's going to tell me who to have on this show? It's ridiculous.
Let's talk about guys that think that the only way you can talk about UFOs is through documents, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That was a dead end that we reached in the 1950s. And that was back when the Canadian communications engineer Wilbert Smith figured out that enough of these people in the 1950s were having in-person contacts with Nordic ETs that you needed to start to talk to these people and figure out what was happening when they had contact. And so Wilbert Smith, and this is all on Grant Cameron's wonderful website, presidentialufo.com, he has all these documents from Smith, where Smith found a bunch of people who had been contacted, and then they all started to have telepathic communication with these beings. They didn't need to actually be taken on board the ship. They could get a hypnotic trance and start to speak. And he had multiple individuals who could all answer 200 very specific questions the same way without knowing what the other ones were saying, suggesting that they're all talking to a singular, unified intelligence. And that was the predecessor to what became the Law of One. The people that did the Law of One in 1981 had extensively studied the material that came out of Wilbert Smith's research. And so you really are never going to get to the core of what's going on if you're not willing to explore some of these areas that people would think are less provable. You're going to have to talk to insiders. You're going to have to get contactee reports. You're going to have to try to do your due diligence to see if those contactee reports match up with the data. And in the case of the Law of One, I've now written 3 books, each of which debuted within the top 15 in the world when they came out. And in those books, in each one, I'm showing scientific proof over and over again that the Law of One has accurate information in it that nobody could have known in 1981, because a lot of it wasn't even discovered until many years later. So it bothers me sometimes when people have a lack of knowledge, a lack of scholarship. They haven't taken the time to research the sources that I talk about, but then they just shore up their ignorance with a confident opinion. Confidence does not mean that you've done the research. It just means you're confident. If people actually do the research, which I show you redundantly, it becomes self-evident. And then what we see is that Corey Goode's material and his platform suggests that the 1950s contactee type stuff, yes, it stopped in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and noughts, but it came back. These beings decided to do this again after 50, 60 years, and it's very provable stuff. The amount of correlation between the things that Corey's been saying and what's in the Law of One is far, far beyond his conscious knowledge of the Law of One.
Let's take a break right here.
There has to be a connection. Well, before the break, Jimmy, we left on why Corey Goode. What difference does it make and you got to look at this. If his information is all fraudulent, as these attacks are purporting that they would be, then why would somebody go to the effort of hacking my website? Why would somebody go to the effort of reporting Corey to Child Protective Services as a cult leader and saying that his children are in imminent danger, quote unquote?
That he's a cult leader. He got turned in, Sphere Being Alliance got turned into an NGO agency that deals with cults, and now you have that brunt of that investigation. Now we're crossing lines here. And somebody called the Texas local Child Protective Service, and he gets a call on Saturday, the day after my brakes go out on my car, which certainly could be attempted murder. It was right after the car went down the mountain, and then as of yesterday, I get this call from Pete Peterson saying that there are armed policemen surrounding his house, and they're taking everything he owns and throwing it into dumpsters. And when one of the neighbors came up and said, "What are you guys doing?" one of the cops told him that they've already got the hole dug in the dump. They've already dug it out with bulldozers, and that when they get this stuff, they're going to throw it in there, drive over it with bulldozers, and then fill it in. Now, and Pete Peterson, only 2 weeks ago, there was two rounds of episodes of him on Cosmic Disclosure where he's revealing information that totally validates everything Corey's been saying. Now I'm pulling it up now, so when I have it ready, I'll let you know. But I have the message that Pete Peterson left you, and if it's okay with you, David, I will actually.
Yeah, you can absolutely play it. It's a 1-minute clip, and it's very relevant. This is what I heard when I called up my voicemail, and after I heard this, I saved it. and I called him, and this is when we talked for an hour, and I got the download on what was going on. But I also saved the voicemail, and so today I recorded it so that you guys can hear what it actually sounds like when something this real happens to somebody, and he leaves a voicemail in 60 seconds, tells me what's going on. Now, I paused it when it said his phone number, but otherwise, this is exactly the way it sounded.
Okay, let me pull this up here. It's pretty interesting to listen to. It's about it's pulling up now. Hold on.
Enter your passcode, then press pound. You have no new messages. You have 2 saved voice messages. Main menu. To review your messages, press 1. Voice message received at 6:14 p.m. yesterday from...
Hello, this is Pete Pearson giving you a buzz. Just wanted to let you know that planning to take everything out of my house and my trucks and trailers and take them up to the dump and dig a big hole pit in the ground and dump it all in the pit and cover it over. And that includes the ashes of my wife and my mother and all my radio equipment, all my tools, and all the stuff that I had stored there and so forth. Totally against the law, but totally after committing many crimes by the sheriff and stuff. So anyway, we live in America, USSA.
End of message. To repeat this message,
absolutely incredible. Now, I want the audience to understand all of this is happening rapid fire. You know, and you have to ask yourself.
Jimmy, after, on July 3rd, a guy I thought I could trust called me up, said he's doing a favor for the Rothschilds by threatening me, and that if I didn't dump Corey Good, that Corey was going to be brought to the slaughterhouse, and he would hate to see that happen to me, too. We have to understand something here, Jimmy. The only other time that the brakes on my car went out was when I was on my way to Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project in Washington, D.C. on May 10th, 2001. And I'm in D.C. rush hour traffic, which is very competitive and very intense. And my brake pedal goes all the way to the floor with nothing. That's the only other time that this has ever happened to a car that I own. Isn't it interesting, the timing of those two things?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can figure out the other. I mean, that's Greer, DCU, Disclosure, all at the same time. What else? You should have expected that. You should have walked.
And then a week after that happened, Jimmy, and this is going to make me emotional, but I'll get through it. A week after that happened, my girlfriend at the time, who we call Sabrina to protect her identity, was crossing Atlantic Avenue in Virginia Beach and got struck by a vehicle driven by a guy from the military going 35 miles an hour. Her body shot 30 feet through the air, smashed her up. She spent 3-4 weeks in intensive care unit and then 2 weeks in the rehab hospital. You know, fractured her C3 vertebrae in her neck. We pumped 3 pints of blood into her. They didn't go anywhere. Fractured her collarbone, fractured her pelvis, ripped the tendons off from her elbow to her triceps, scratched up her face. I mean, I saw her on the stretcher in the hospital and looked like she was dead. Her lips were blue, her face was white. A week after I go to the frickin' Disclosure Project.
Why do you keep doing what you do?
Because I cannot look myself in the eye, in the mirror, knowing that I did not take a stand when the lives of literally 6 or 7 billion people are at stake.
That's what I'm talking about.
I cannot do that. I'm not a superhero. I'm not a savior. Don't pray to me. I'm not going to show up and save you. I'm just a guy out there trying to do his job. And it's a shitty job because we're all going through the mud here trying to unclog this big cesspool that's loaded with reptilian aliens that are trying to eat people and destroy the planet. And it sounds crazy. It sounds stupid. Okay, you don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe it. But why are they trying to take Corey's kids away? Why are they trying to take my inheritance away from Pete? Why are they taking this man's possessions and throwing them in the dump? Why did they try to kill me?
Yeah, why hack your website?
Who cares? If I'm alive, who cares, right? If I'm full of crap, let me go and do my thing. Insult me on the internet if you want to, but don't try to frickin' kill me. Come on. And people are going to say, oh, David, you're just trying to make use of this for publicity. No, I'm telling you, the frickin' brakes didn't work. From 1 minute to the next, they go from being fine to the pedal going all the way to the floor. And when you start to look at it in terms of that a guy calls me up who I thought I could trust on July 3rd and says that he's doing a favor for the Rothschilds and that he's telling me that I'm going to be brought to the slaughterhouse if I don't disavow Corey Goode, and that if I do disavow Corey Goode, they're going to give me money and power, and I would become a CIA asset. And, lots of people do it. Don't worry about it. You shouldn't fight them, David. Your life will be a lot less painful if you just go along with this. We're going to destroy you if you don't do this. I said no, because I'm not going to go out there and shill for these people. You do not make a deal with the cabal. They will betray you, guaranteed. As soon as they offer you the deal, you say no, because they will kill you. They will lie to you. They will hang you out to dry. They will martyr you. You will become Lee Harvey Oswald. Do not think for a minute that you can ever work with these people. They will kill their own. They don't give a crap about anybody. Do not ever cut a deal with these people. That is total ignorance. There is no way I would ever take that deal. There is no way I would ever work for these people. That's why we had to expose this. They threatened me through my insider. They threatened me through this guy hacking my site in the comment section. Then he has the audacity to send us an email, sign my NDA so that I can take $1 million from each of you. Give me a break, man. And people are going to try to say that we're making this all up or that this is just a bunch of conspiracy theory. They tried to frickin' kill me.
Yeah, and
Wake up.
Yeah, in the unredacted letter where the names are in there, and you read through this, and you're just like, holy crap! And I was talking to somebody today. I don't want to say who it is because it would just be uncool, but you know who I was talking to today. Anyway,
yes, I do.
And he said, okay, well, what were some of the names? Did you recognize? I said, you know what? Yes, and that was the scary part. I see and feel the interaction, and I see and feel the pressure, and they're coming, and I just don't understand why. You can't say that somebody is lying here, and also in the same sentence, you have to disassociate yourself from this liar, or it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to anybody that hears what we're talking about here. It's
the same thing that John Perkins revealed in Confessions of an Economic Hitman. This is what they do. They're going to go down to some tin pot dictator in a third world country, and they play gun or the money. In my right hand is this gun. In my left hand is this huge wad of $100 bills. I'm not leaving without giving you one of these two, and I don't mean I'm going to hand you the gun. I mean I'm going to blow your fucking brains out.
Yes. Beep.
Okay?
Beep, beep, beep.
All right.
Let's take a break.